The day Ethan Cole rolled into Oak Ridge felt like entering a postcard. The streets were pristine, lined with sculpted shrubs and lawns so uniform they could have been ironed. Houses stood behind low stone walls or iron gates, each with blooming jasmine climbing the posts. Kids pedaled bikes, their shouts mingling with the hum of sprinklers. A faint whiff of grilled steak drifted from a backyard. Neighbors waved from porches, dog walkers nodded, and a guy clipping roses called out a cheery welcome. It was the kind of place where people bragged, "We leave our doors unlocked," and believed it. Ethan eased his Porsche 911 GT3 to the curb outside 52 Maple Drive, his new home. The car's midnight blue paint gleamed, its low growl a stark contrast to the neighborhood's soft charm. Curtains flickered. A woman pushing a stroller slowed, eyeing the car. A man mowing his lawn paused, staring longer than polite. Ethan didn't react. Behind tinted sunglasses, he scanned the scene, calm but alert. He wasn't here to fit in. Oak Ridge's predictable rhythm where everyone knew who parked where and when trash bins went out wasn't about peace for him. It was about control, patterns, a place to operate unnoticed. Because Ethan Cole wasn't a tech mogul or a trust fund kid. He was a U.S. Marshal, active, working cases that stayed off the news but shifted lives. He stepped out, stretching subtly, his eyes sweeping the street without seeming to. A marshal's instincts never slept, treating glances, catching lies in a twitch, neutralizing threats before they formed. Oak Ridge's polished surface hid something. He sensed it. Darkness often lurked in places this quiet. He'd chosen this neighborhood for its low profile, a base for his covert work, where late-night arrivals or sudden trips wouldn't raise brows. The real estate agent had raved about the gourmet kitchen and tight-knit community. Ethan nodded, smiled, but he wasn't here for potlucks. He needed a shadow to work from, and Oak Ridge seemed perfect. Or so he thought. He unpacked sparingly essentials only. His real tools were in his head or locked in a steel safe in the bedroom closet. Badge, sidearm, encrypted files, and a life few could fathom. He didn't broadcast his job. That was the point. But he also didn't tolerate being watched. The stares, the hushed porch chats, the neighbor lingering by his mailbox, they didn't escape him. He wasn't paranoid, just precise. Patterns were forming, some benign, others not. The man across the street, the one who hadn't looked away since the Porsche arrived, would soon be more than a nosy neighbor. He was the first hint of Oak Ridge's hidden order. Ethan didn't know it yet, but this neighborhood had its own shadow government, self-appointed patrols, fake HOA rules, and enforcers who thrived on fear. They disliked newcomers, hated defiance, and loathed anyone who didn't bow. Their mistake? They thought Ethan was just a guy with a fast car. They didn't know he was a marshal, and that error would unravel them. On his fourth morning, something felt off. Not danger, but a prickle under the calm. Ethan stepped outside, coffee in hand, heading for his Porsche parked on the street. A paper fluttered under the wiper, cheap, due damp, with blocked text. Parking violation, non-compliant with HOA standards. Final warning. No signature, no number, just an HOA logo, a hawk over HOAO. The words were formal, but final warning carried a menace, less rulebook, more threat. Ethan sipped his coffee, eyes narrowing. He didn't react, he processed. The note wasn't official, it was a power play. He scanned the street. A jogger, a delivery truck, nothing overt. Whoever left it timed it carefully early, but not too early. He pocketed the note and checked the HOA handbook on his laptop. 60 pages of paint codes and hedge heights, but nothing banned parking a personal car on the street. He cross-checked the HOA's site. Zilch. This wasn't policy, it was fiction. He inspected the car. No marks, no footprints. He recalled the previous night. He'd parked at 7:50 p.m. After a grocery run. A gray SUV, no front plate, had idled nearby. Maybe nothing, maybe a clue. Ethan filed the note in a folder labeled Incident Day 4, stored with his secure tablet. This wasn't random, it was a test, a probe to see if he'd comply. In places like Oak Ridge, control came in whispers, not fights. Most would shrug, move their car, play along. Ethan wasn't most. That night, he pulled the Porsche into the driveway, not out of fear, but to signal, "I see you." Under the porch light, the car's curves shone like a challenge. He sat outside, tea in hand, watching. Nothing stirred. But he knew the quiet was a lie. 3 days later, the players showed themselves. Mid-morning, 3 men strolled down Maple Drive in dark green vests labeled HOA compliance. The lettering was uneven, the vests cheap, more costume than uniform. They moved deliberately, stopping at houses, one tapping a tablet, another peering over gates. The third, a stocky man with a wolf tattoo creeping up his neck, trailed behind, exuding quiet menace. Ethan watched from his window, blinds cracked. Their walk was too choreographed, their confidence too bold for volunteers. As they neared his house, Ethan studied them. Wolf tattoo was the leader, his stride slow, deliberate, mirrored shades reflecting nothing. He carried no notes, just a bulky phone clipped to his belt like a badge. They paused at Ethan's curb. Tablet guy typed furiously. Wolf tattoo circled the Porsche, eyeing the plates, the rims. Without looking up, he said, loud enough to carry. Not a showroom, pal. A taunt, not a request, meant to sting. Ethan didn't move. Behind the blinds, his pulse stayed even. Wolf tattoo didn't glance at the house, knew Ethan was watching. The trio moved on, but the message lingered. They were marking territory, testing if the new guy would fold. Ethan opened a notebook. 3 men, green vests, no credentials. One phrase, territorial. He'd seen this before, petty tyrants claiming power through props and fear. They thought he was soft, a rich guy who'd cave. They were wrong. The next morning shattered the calm. Ethan stepped out, dressed for a field office meeting, keys in hand. 3 steps from the curb, he froze. All 4 Porsche tires were slashed clean, precise cuts on the inner walls, hidden from view. White paint streaked the windshield, still wet, smeared diagonally. Under the wiper, another note. You were warned. 4 words, same paper, same venom. Ethan's breath caught, not from fear, but clarity. This wasn't about parking, it was about dominance. They thought he was a pushover, someone who'd panic, comply, vanish. They didn't know who they'd provoked. He crouched, inspecting the damage. No footprints, no paint drips. The cuts required skill, the paint meant to humiliate, not destroy. Tactical, deliberate. But they'd crossed a line. He pocketed the note, returned inside, and opened a secure case. His encrypted tablet hummed to life. He logged the incident. Photos, coordinates, timestamps, cross-referenced. These weren't pranksters, they felt untouchable, bold enough to act in a quiet suburb. That meant they'd done this before. Ethan washed paint dust from his hands, staring at the car through the window. It didn't anger him, it focused him. This was now a case, not a neighborly spat. He was a marshal, trained to hunt shadows. They just stepped into his. He skipped the meeting, calling a contact at the regional office for database access. No names yet, just a request for records. Whoever slashed his tires wasn't testing fate, they were inviting it. Ethan worked methodically, his kitchen table a command center. His laptop, linked to federal systems, pulled local police logs. Filtering Westridge complaints, a pattern emerged. Over 15 reports of unofficial HOA patrols, men in vests, fake rules, harassment. Most were dismissed as civil disputes, but one stood out. 8 months prior, Clara Evans reported 3 men demanding yard access for fence checks. She refused. A note appeared, identical to Ethan's. He dug deeper, accessing an HOA oversight portal. Oak Ridge's board had twice disavowed a community standards team, unelected and unauthorized, yet they'd intimidated residents with fake citations. No enforcement followed. Ethan requested video logs. Doorbell footage showed wolf tattoo, clear as day. A facial recognition skin pinged. Marcus Reed, 45, convicted of coercion, cited for unlicensed security work, served 10 months for harassment in another suburb. No active warrants, but a history of faking authority. A second scan ID'd his partner. Nate Carver, 40, ex-security guard, fired for aggression, no charges but a trail of complaints. Classic profile, men craving control, stripped of real power, building their own with knockoff vests and fear. Ethan compiled a dossier, Oak Ridge Incident 1. Names, faces, videos, complaint logs. They targeted newcomers, banking on silence. They'd picked the wrong mark. He encrypted the file, his mind sharp. These weren't just bullies, they were suspects. That evening, Ethan walked to Reed's Housea gray colonial with a faded flagpole. Reed stood on the porch with two men, vests swapped for jackets, but the same radios clipped on. Community Patrol Officer patches glowed under the light, a title as real as a movie prop. Reed spotted Ethan first, smirking. "Look who's out for a stroll," he said, stepping down. "You don't get how things work here, do you?" Ethan stopped at the lawn's edge, hands loose, eyes locked. "You seem sure of yourself," he said, voice low. Reed leaned in. "I know your type. Flashy car, thinks he owns the place." Ethan closed the gap, voice steady. "You don't know me, but you will." Reed's smirk twitched, a crack in his armor. "I've handled guys like you," he said, voice tightening. Ethan glanced at the patches, the radio's cheap facades. "You threaten neighbors, vandalize cars, hide behind fake rules. That's not control. It's a delusion." The air thickened, tension coiling. Reed whispered, "You're out of your depth." Ethan held his gaze. "So are you." He turned, walking away, not defiant, but final. Reed stood frozen, unsure if he'd won or lost. Ethan had what he needed, confirmation. They thought they were untouchable. They weren't. That night, Ethan filed a police report, attaching photos, videos, and Reed's history. He sent a sealed report to the Marshal service, citing vandalism, impersonation, and harassment. Within 36 hours, a joint operation was greenlit local PD and federal agents, targeting unlawful authority. At 5:45 a.m., vehicles rolled silently into Oak Ridge. Agents hit Reed's house, seizing fake badges, illegal knives, and stacks of forged citations. Carver's place yielded similar hauls. Neighbor testimonies, quietly collected, detailed months of fear. News spread like sparks. Whispers at mailboxes became open chats. Reed's patrol had bullied for over a year, citing fake fines, retaliating against defiance. Now, they were cuffed, their vests bagged as evidence. Oak Ridge exhaled, free of phantom rules. The HOA meeting packed the community center. Chairs overflowed as neighbors sought answers. Ethan stood, calm, and introduced himself not as a resident, but a marshal. "I'm not here to scare anyone," he said. "But if anyone tries to play cop again, I'll be watching." Silence broke into applause, raw and real. The man they'd eyed warily was now their shield. The tires were replaced, the Porsche pristine again, a symbol of restored order. Neighbors who once avoided Ethan now waved. Kids biked closer. A jogger called, "Morning." He wasn't a stranger anymore, was Oak Ridge's quiet guardian. Reed faced court in a crisp shirt, but no polish hid the truth. 20 months for intimidation, impersonation, and vandalism, plus probation. Carver got fines, service, and monitoring, his complicity noted. The real victory wasn't in sentences, but in the neighborhood's awakening. Fear dissolved, silence broke. Oak Ridge learned. Fake power crumbles under real truth. Ethan didn't seek fame. He skipped barbecues, kept his walks brief. But his presence anchored Maple Drive, respected, not feared. Reed and Carver saw a car, a mark. They missed the badge, the training, the will. Justice didn't knock, it arrived, precise, undeniable, leaving Oak Ridge stronger, clearer, and finally free.